Imagine this. It's night. The sky is quiet, and one man lifts a small tube to his eye and looks into the stars. But that tube isn't just a telescope. That tube is a weapon strong enough to shake an empire and a whole era. Because what Galileo Galilei sees up there will do more than change science. It will challenge something even bigger, the authority of the church. And now the real question is, if you see the truth, do you say it out loud, or do you stay silent and survive? Today, I'm going to tell you Galileo's story, his life, his tense relationship with the church, the trial that made history, and how he died in the shadow of his own discoveries. In 1564, in the Italian city of Pisa, a boy is born, Galileo Galilei. His father is a musician, but not only a musician, he's a man who doubts, who challenges rules, who asks for proof. And Galileo grows up the same way. He questions everything. He doesn't accept because it's written as an answer. He wants evidence. Back then, the world felt fixed and certain. The earth is at the center. The heavens are perfect. The universe is unchanging. And most people treated that as absolute truth. Galileo is sent to study medicine, the safe path, the profitable path. But he falls in love with something else: numbers, motion, gravity, the hidden laws of nature. And he learns one core idea. Nature doesn't speak in opinions. Nature speaks in measurements. Galileo starts challenging Aristotle's physics. Aristotle claimed heavier objects fall faster. Galileo says, let's test it. And that's where his dangerous side appears. He isn't insulting tradition. He's simply checking if it's true. And sometimes, testing the truth is the greatest rebellion. He runs experiments, makes observations, refines his ideas, and his name begins to spread across Europe. But the real storm is still ahead, because one day, that tube enters the story. Around 1609, Galileo hears about the telescope, and he improves it, making it stronger, sharper, more powerful. Then, he points it at the heavens. Now listen, in that era, the sky was considered perfect. The moon was supposed to be smooth, the planets ideal, the heavens untouched. Galileo looks and freezes. The moon has mountains, shadows, roughness, imperfections. So the heavens aren't untouchable after all. And then, an even bigger blow, he sees 4 moons orbiting Jupiter, which means not everything orbits Earth. Then he observes Venus, changing phases, like the moon, and that strongly supports a sun-centered system. He even sees sunspots, marks on the sun, evidence of change. The myth of perfection starts cracking. In 1610, he publishes what he saw, and Europe shakes, because suddenly the sky looks different. And Galileo isn't just a scientist, he's a storyteller. He doesn't only say, believe me, he says, look, here's something important. This conflict wasn't as simple as the church hated science. The church at that time wasn't only religious power, it was political power, cultural power, intellectual power. And Copernicus's sun-centered idea wasn't just astronomy. It moved humanity's place in the universe. There were people in the church who understood Galileo, even supported him. But there was fear. If scripture could be interpreted differently, then what else could be questioned? And Galileo makes it more tense, because he doesn't only talk about astronomy. He sometimes speaks about how scripture should be read. And that raises the temperature. Nin, 1616. He is warned, do not present this idea as absolute truth. For a while, Galileo steps back, but the fire inside him doesn't go out, because in his mind, the sky has already spoken. Years pass, and in 1632, Galileo publishes his most famous work, Dialogue Concerning the Two Chief World Systems. It's written as a conversation, as if it's neutral. But in reality, the book strongly favors the sun-centered view. And here's the dramatic twist. The Pope, Urban VIII, had once been more friendly toward Galileo. So Galileo thinks it might be safe now. But politics, pride, pressure, all collide. And then Galileo is summoned to Rome. Galileo is old and sick, but he still wants to defend his work. The Inquisition trial begins. Picture it. On one side, one of Europe's most famous minds. On the other, one of the most powerful institutions on earth. They tell him, call it wrong, deny it publicly, say you were mistaken. In that moment, Galileo has two choices. He can resist and risk everything, or he can step back and survive. And Galileo recants. Some call it cowardice. Others say he had to live because he still had work to do. The sentence is heavy, life imprisonment, later changed to house arrest. He is not free. The man who unlocked the sky is now trapped behind walls. Even under house arrest, Galileo doesn't stop. He writes, thinks, builds ideas. He completes major work on motion and mechanics, work that later becomes part of the foundation of modern physics. But fate adds one final cruelty. The man who showed the world the stars begins to lose his sight. Imagine that, the one who revealed the heavens slowly can't see the world around him. And still, he doesn't truly surrender his belief. In 1642, Galileo Galilei dies at 77 in his home. His final years were lived under restrictions, under silence. But history works in strange ways. Sometimes, you lose in court, but you win in the court of time. After his death, his ideas survive. His method, measure, test, prove, becomes the bloodstream of science. And years later, the world begins to accept what he saw. Galileo didn't only give us a telescope, he gave us a principle. Truth doesn't care about noise. Truth doesn't care about status. Truth doesn't care about fear. You only have to look, measure, and prove. So here's my question. If you saw something clearly that everyone else denied, would you have the courage to say it anyway? Because sometimes a telescope doesn't only magnify the sky, it magnifies human courage.